This is the 7th episode of the MSPoweruser, Alex.
Gamescast.
There we go. And today we have a special guest apart from me and Alex. We have a third person. I don't know why, but for some reason, really basic names I always screw up saying. So, Jesse Shanahan.
Yep, you got it.
I got it perfect?
Perfect.
Go me. Yet another thing that the MSPoweruser Gamescast has done flawlessly. This is a very special guest. They have the title of being by far the smartest person to have ever guested on the podcast. Probably to have ever been on the MSPoweruser website in the past 8 years it's been active. So
We set the bar very high.
Oh no.
I didn't realize we had one. So, as an astrophysicist and I guess AI person, she's not an AI.
I'm human, I promise.
But she does stuff with AI, and she also has a dog.
I have two.
2 dogs.
2 whole dogs.
No, not 4 half dogs.
Well, one is small. It's, he's honestly more like a cat, so maybe he's a half dog.
The only dog I remember is Hubble, who was probably the cutest dog I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, same. He's perfect.
And we're going to talk about, well, we're probably going to talk about many things, but the big topic that we're going to talk about today is accessibility in games. I don't know about you, Alex, but I'm counting the seconds until the YouTube video will allow me to swear. I'm just looking at it. I've almost sworn 4 times.
We're so
I don't want to
close.
edit them out. So, Jesse, you have done a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Work in the past about accessibility in gaming. Me and you used to work in at ICXM.net together before it was killed unceremoniously as
Rip.
well. Just one day, I got a message in the work Slack. Site's dying. Back up your work.
Yep.
It
came out of nowhere. It just I was loving writing for ICXM, and then just out of nowhere it was like, nope, bye.
See
it's
ya.
gone.
Everything you love, ashes.
Basically,
Right in the
yep.
dirt. So since then, you have pretty much done everything.
It feels like that sometimes.
I don't know. It says EMT on your Twitter profile, but also AIML.
Yes.
There's a lot of little acronyms here. And
Gotta squeeze it in 160 characters.
I don't even know what my Twitter bio says anymore. Oh, you know what? It says nothing of note, that's for sure. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your gaming background or your accessibility in gaming background?
Sure. So when it comes to gaming, I've been playing games for as long as I can remember.
That's a long time for anyone listening.
Yeah, it's a long time, and definitely feeling old with some of my my younger brothers and whatnot. But I have always loved video games, especially not just for escapism, but for kind of the community that they can bring, and also as an art form. So I love to play a whole variety of games.
On the top of your head,
Yes.
Least favorite gaming community, go.
Oh crap! Can I swear yet? No. Okay.
Nope, not for another half a minute, unfortunately.
So probably, let me think. Probably COD. And
Oh, that's a good one.
that's because, and this is secret alter ego of mine that we won't discuss, but I played quite a lot of COD for a particular period in my life. I was going through a divorce, and that was sort of my therapy substitute. And
It's a pretty good one. Got a lot of stress out.
Oh, yeah. And I got quite good. So for a while, I was actually top 500 in the world. I was playing way too much, but especially when you get up in that kind of level of sort of competitiveness, people get even more toxic than just your sort of randoms. So I would say that's the most toxicity I've probably experienced from a community, though I will say I have just started playing Dota 2, and it's kind of... there are times that gives COD a run for its money, for sure.
I've never played Dota, but I have seen people who play Dota, and a lot of them, they don't look like humans. I would liken them more to gremlins.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Maybe the little goblins that run the bank in Harry Potter.
Oh, God. Yeah, okay. I can see the resemblance. I actually started playing because I read an article about OpenAI. They actually created an AI program to play Dota competitively. And it was a fascinating paper, and it tackled a lot of really interesting problems like fog of war, which we hadn't really figured out how to teach an AI how to deal with that. So it was the sheer complexity of the game intrigued me, so I started playing it, and it's one of those things where...
I could fuck up that AI.
Probably not. I'm actually quite terrible, but it's addictive. It really is. It's awful sometimes, but I can't put it down. So it's, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little masochistic or something, but it's been quite fun. And I played a lot of different kinds of games, but when I started a lot of my accessibility work in academia, it seemed like a natural kind of crossover to bring accessibility to video games as well. Also because as part of my disability, I often had trouble with some of the like required positions with controllers, or things like button mashing or depressing the joysticks. And so as I looked for alternatives...
We can definitely talk about this.
Oh, I hate that so much. But I remember my younger brother got me an Xbox Elite controller. And even just having things like being able to remap buttons to paddles to make it easier for my hands, it was like a revelation. And so I started to get a lot more into accessibility in gaming and, as you know, reviewing games and their accessibility features. And so I think that's kind of been one of my main focuses specifically is looking at the breadth as well as the depth of accessibility features that different games offer.
Wow. Did you notice how she managed to get right back on the topic after we distracted her, Alex?
Oh, I know.
Should I be more distractible? I can be.
Oh,
but then...
no. This is we have never managed to stay on topic. Someone who can actually get back to topics? This is unprecedented.
Well, if you let me go off on tangents, it's just going to be about like machine learning and probably space and black holes, which is cool, but probably not what people want to hear in a gaming podcast. So
I like space.
I mean, this is the MSPoweruser Gamescast. I think they're here for the tangents at this point.
As if they're here at all. I look at the analytics. There are some people who listen to it all the way through, but usually when it's me, when I'm talking, there seems to be skips. Yeah, so great bonus for my confidence, that's for sure. So right now we're gonna just get into the main topic, and that'll be about accessibility in mostly mainstream games, because as many games as there's lots of indie games. There is one in particular that I didn't put on the list I sent to you, Jesse, but we will talk about it because I've just remembered it. But I guess the way that people get into games is usually through some big, highly marketed game that people look at and go, yeah, that looks like it's for me.
Oregon Trail.
Exactly. They sold that on like I saw like there's an LCD thing that you could buy. It's only in America, but you could buy like a little LCD version of the Oregon Trail, and it was just like a handheld version of that game that you could keep around anywhere. So if you
it's like
ever
a
want
Tamagotchi, but for Oregon Trail.
for dysentery, imagine your Tamagotchi just shattered some intestines out. So. I guess we'll talk about how accessibility in games has grown, and I guess we'll start around about the time. Let's see, when I got into games around about PS1 or PS2-ish, and I don't remember a single accessibility option, not even subtitles. So, personally, how do you think that games have evolved over the past like 20 or so years to allow people who wouldn't normally be able to play games now.
I mean, I think it's grown exponentially, and I mean, I'm trying to remember. I can't remember the first game that I played that had accessibility options, to be honest. But especially, you know, the early games, I'm thinking like N64 for me was earlier, and the PC games I played often.
Well, the N64 is probably the least accessible console.
Especially with that controller. Oh, I mean, it has a place in my heart because of nostalgia, but oof, who can hold that thing?
People with 3 arms and maybe 4 legs.
3 arms, 4. Okay, so almost an octopus.
Almost, but not even they can get it. So.
But I think I've really been amazed at developers who have embraced accessibility options, because I think for a long time, I got very accustomed to not having those options. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, were just used to being shut out. And so to see developers nowadays, big developers and even indie developers, which I think in some ways is even more impressive because they have a lot less resources. But when they devote themselves to improving that accessibility for everybody, not only are they increasing the market for their game, which is kind of just frankly a smarter business decision, but also they're creating an experience that can be shared by more people. So it's been incredibly impressive to see the next wave of games each year, and seeing how developers continue to outdo themselves with offering more and more accessibility options. I mean, unfortunately, this is always it's always juxtaposed to games that do the opposite and somehow seem to offer no accessibility options, despite it, of course, being 2020 and that seeming to be more of the norm. So it always surprises me now when I go into a more modern game and it doesn't have, you know, colorblind mode. It doesn't have subtitles where you can adjust the color and the size or the font. I'm glad that it surprises me when I don't find those things, because that means it's becoming more standard. But unfortunately, there still are a lot of games that have a lot of work to do when it comes to accessibility.
Yeah, I think one of the most surprising games to launch without like basic accessibility options was the Spyro Reignited trilogy that didn't have subtitles. And I mean, I'm a subtitles user just because like I've grown up with people talking around me all the time, and I want to kind of ignore them and read what's going on. So like, I mean, people who need subtitles, like subtitles should always be a thing. In a game, and it is so bizarre when they don't have them like at all. That's the most basic accessibility option, that and colorblind mode, in my opinion. Yeah,
that's the bare minimum, it feels like.
Now, Alex, you played a game recently for MSPoweruser. You played Grounded, which is a new Xbox exclusive.
I did.
And Microsoft have been probably one of the most supportive companies in favor of accessibility. And I mean, just because we're the MSPoweruser Gamescast, we would absolutely grill the shit out of them. Okay, if it was Sony that was doing this and not Microsoft. But you played Grounded, which is an early access game. Did you notice any accessibility options in there?
It's got like quite a lot that I'm happy to see. It's got the like colorblind mode, and you can scale the text with subtitles as well.
Oh, that's good.
There's the like text chat.
Tiny subtitles are more offensive than not having any subtitles.
Yeah.
They're the worst.
It's like if you got poor hearing and poor eyesight, and they're like, here are subtitles you can't see.
Especially when a lot of it's played on console. Like for a PC player, you're rarely more than like 2 feet away from your monitor, so you can lean in a bit and see closer. But when you're sitting back on a couch, maybe like 5 or 6 feet away, there's no chance of seeing some of the teeny tiny subtitles that you're given. And that's even if you're like well sighted.
What is this? Subtitles for ants?
I mean, in Grounded.
Isn't that the game with spiders, actually? So, or am I mixing it up? I thought...
Yep. No, that's got spiders. That's got the creepy crawlies.
Yeah, so isn't that I thought this was really cool, actually. So they, as part of their accessibility offerings, they have like arachnophobia settings. And so
you can make the spiders less spidery.
Yeah, and so you can kind of even
turn them into
scale
a big blob.
Which is kind of terrifying on its own, but...
It's a very cute homunculus.
I thought that was really interesting because I think a lot of times when people think of accessibility in their mind, they think of, blind folks, deaf folks, people who have mobility disabilities, but they don't often think of phobias. And I know one of the games we're probably talking about later, Sea of Thieves, now has like the thalassophobia setting, so that if you're really afraid of deep oceans, you can turn on this setting and you won't sink into the water. You'll just kind of like bob on the top. And I thought this is a really great trend of games approaching phobias and offering options so that people who have those fears can still interact with the game and enjoy it.
I really wish someone would add an option that would remove my fear of being bad at the game. No, but that was a joke. I'm very good at video games. No, that was an even worse joke. But it's really like one of the first like phobia settings I ever saw was it was like a mod for Skyrim, which was also an arachnophobia thing. People, I think they changed the spiders so that they would just be huge bears, which I think is, in my opinion, is much more terrifying. And also in Grounded, I say they got the arachnophobia mode, and what they should do is they should add an even scarier version of the spiders. So they have normal version, arachnophobia mode, and then tough Russian mode.
Arachnophilia.
Australian mode.
They are absolutely terrifying, though. When you first find that, when I was playing the beta back before it released, I accidentally wandered too far away from home, and I almost shit myself when I first encountered one, because it's terrifying. Their eyes glow red when they see you.
Oh God!
It's distressing.
All 8 of them?
They only have 2.
Ooh.
Doesn't sound like a spider thing.
They're not accurate spiders, very sadly.
Well, I say, and I might be the only one on this, they're kind of adorable.
I strongly disagree. I don't like spiders in the best of places.
Yeah,
I think you're on your own in that view. No thanks.
I have, so in my house, we're not allowed to kill the spiders. We have a spider removal station, which is a Tupperware and a cutely drawn on piece of cardboard. And people are not allowed to kill spiders in my house.
Oh no, if they cross the line that is the boundary of my house, you are on my property, and burn it with fire. Nope.
It's the American way.
Yeah, the one small piece of me that is American.
Oh my God, Alex. First time on the podcast, someone not from Britain.
I know. Scotland might secede eventually, so we can retroactively count Phil in.
If people listen to this like 500 years in the future, Scotland will have drifted away. So if we get put in a time capsule, then again, anytime someone digs up a time capsule, every item they take out, it's problematic by the time they pick it out.
Oh gosh.
10 years, 20 years, people burying those Jim will fix it badges. Massive mistake. I looked up accessibility options in games, and this is something that I found out an hour ago. So you can all learn this with me because I do my research way ahead of time. Nintendo in the it doesn't have a date, but in the 1980s, I think they released a hands-free controller for the NES, creatively titled the NES Hands-Free. And this was a device that you would sip or blow on to control the game. For people who couldn't use their hand, they'd sip or blow air into a straw that could be maneuvered with the tongue to control movement. And I think this is the earliest accessibility controller, as far as I can see. I guess turbo buttons were probably the most common, because I'd say that they count as accessibility, especially when games have so many fucking QTEs in them. But this is the I know, right? As someone with RSI, they could fuck right off. So I think this is the earliest form of accessibility controller that offers like full accessibility options for people who would never have been able to play games with a standard controller.
And so what that's kind of telling me is that we see wonderful early efforts on Nintendo's part. I'm not familiar with maybe more recent efforts of theirs. We all know, like, and again, I have no loyalty to Microsoft, but I will say on the accessibility front, they're kicking ass. And then you kind of look over at Sony and it's like, what are you doing? Like,
they added you could pay 50 quid to have a back button on your PS4 controller. It's very surprising. It's very surprising that Microsoft created their accessibility controller, and they went, I guess this is also the accessibility controller for PlayStation as well, because they're not doing anything.
Staying on brand, I guess.
Yep, Sony won't care until they're in the hole, and then they'll do whatever they can to crawl out of it. But at least software-wise, and this is like their big Western studio, Naughty Dog, big crunch time studio. They recently released The Last of Us 2, and that had a very interesting accessibility option with it changes all of the colors in the game, so like backgrounds and stuff are untextured, and your character is blue, and I believe enemy characters are just bright red. And it allows items and enemies to be highlighted in a way that is more findable and accessible for people with, I guess it's for people with poor eyesight. I'm not quite sure what the point of it is. But
so I think it's supposed to be for players who have low vision or who are blind. Yeah. So a lot of folks who are blind, actually, for those who don't know, can see a little bit, but it's just... Yeah. There's kind of a legal threshold for blindness. And so having those stark contrasts and making, the colors accessible and so distinct means that people who have any kind of vision loss or visual difficulties can still play the game and get the story and the character development. And a lot of that is why people play games. And so, whenever there's a new accessibility option, there's always some kind of backlash from people, complaining that it's making the game too easy or simplifying it. But really, I think most people play the game for the story and to experience it and to see what happens and engage with the different characters and their stories. And so this allows blind players or players with low vision to be able to do that and still go through the game and have the same experiences.
Yeah, and people complain a lot about difficulty options in games, and I would say that people they are playing a slightly different game from you. Like if you're playing it on the hardest difficulty and they're playing it on the easiest difficulty, it is a different experience. But to them, that easy mode could be the hard mode for them. So
yeah, difficulty is subjective.
Yeah, so they're still getting like a very similar experience. It doesn't matter like if you think you're too pro gamer to play on normal or easy.
I mean, that's something that always kind of boggles my mind, to be honest, because and this is something I see in the video game community a lot, which just kind of I don't understand, is, our experience of anything is inherently subjective. And so you and I can play the same game, even on the same settings and difficulty, and have massively different experiences from it. And so this push that everybody has to have the same experience of the game because that's what the developers intended,
they made different difficulty options.
They made different difficulty options, but also no two people are going to have the exact same experience of a game, regardless of the difficulty settings.
If people wanted to experience games the way that they were intended, Halo would never be played on Legendary, because like Bungie and 343 have said multiple times that Halo games are designed around heroic. They are designed around the heroic difficulty, which is like their slightly harder mode. But then Legendary, they just make it a ball ache because that's what like the hard difficulty has to be. If you're so intent on playing the way that the developers intended, hard mode isn't what they intend a game to be. Most times, if they did, then it's weird. They should have just made that normal and then just made many easier difficulties. Right? Like extremely easier, very much easier, normal.
I mean,
but there is that.
I think it's good to have just the purely focused story modes that are coming along as well nowadays. Like we've had a few of the Assassin's Creed games that have had like non-combat modes where you can just look around the city and explore it. And that's,
those are super cool.
Yeah, I think more than just like a tool of looking around the environment. I think it's for people who can't deal with the combat because of the challenges it creates. Like that's an amazing thing for them to then be able to experience the world as other players would be able to.
That's a really good point, and I think it kind of illustrates how the combat in games, while enjoyable, some of us enjoy the challenge. It's not necessary for the story. It's not integral to the experience of the game. I mean, there are probably, combat-oriented games where like you can't really, take the combat out of COD multiplayer, for example. But a
lot of people are chucking controllers. I think that takes the combat right out of it.
But I think it's important to have those modes so that people can still experience the worlds and kind of the fantasy and the escapism that a lot of video games offer, especially games like Assassin's Creed that have these really rich kind of developed worlds to explore.
I mean, I think on the other side of the spectrum, there's the Wolfenstein games. Are the Wolfenstein games?
Wolfenstein?
I think so. The one with good old BJ Blazko.
Yeah, that's
where
BJB. He's in Wolfenstein.
Yeah, the difficulty options have been.
People are really mad about
to,
this.
Like poke fun at people playing on anything but like the hardest two difficulties.
Yeah,
so
but they
like
were changed for the second one, right? Or was it the recent one, Youngblood?
I think it might have been Youngblood.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the first two especially, it was poking fun at people who want to play it on easier settings, which is stupid because a whole part of like Wolfenstein is that it's a huge power fantasy.
Yeah.
And you get that playing on the easiest difficulty, so it's
That's the thing. We talked about this before, where Wolfenstein 2 has an issue where it is very clearly designed around keyboard and mouse.
Yeah.
And playing it like the same difficulty level on PC and console, there's a huge disparity between how difficult they actually are. Especially in one level, which is the courtroom level, and that in that sense, difficulty it shows how arbitrary difficulty levels are when a game is clearly designed for one control scheme, except for the other.
That's a good point, and I'm trying to remember what game it was, but it took I wish I could remember. It took kind of difficulty. It acknowledged kind of that arbitrariness of difficulty settings, and it allowed for you to not just kind of pick, easy, medium, hard, these kind of arbitrary, subjective categories, but allowed you to toggle things. I think it was actually Last of Us Part 2. Actually, I think it was. Yeah, I think so.
Celeste is the first game that allowed you to like change like jump height and like dash length.
Yeah, you could change basically anything you wanted to in that game, but not as like here's a cheat menu, go wild with it. More as like this isn't how the game's meant to be played. And I think they qualify that when you turn the mode on. They specifically say this isn't how the game's meant to be played, but people might need this. So here's a list of modifiers that you can put on the game, and they work super well for accessibility.
And again, for people who think that's an issue, because people did think that was an issue, if you think it's an issue, don't use it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right? It's so easy. If you have a problem with it, then it's not for you. So.
And if you're tempted to use it, that seems to be a very you problem, right?
Yeah,
right?
It's not the problem with it being included.
Is that they want games to be hard when they complete a game they find hard.
Yeah.
So it's like if you beat Dark Souls, you want to have the achievement of, I beat Dark Souls. And then if someone can play Dark Souls on like a super easy difficulty, they don't want their achievement that was hard earned to be measured to someone else's that they played in an easier difficulty, even if it was as hard earned for them. Like if they had to really struggle to beat it on a theoretical easy difficulty.
Yeah,
that doesn't make their achievement any less. But a lot of people get really salty.
It's an ego thing.
Yeah, gaming is very elitist, but I would like to see a Dark Souls game that has an easy mode, and then the tagline can be "Prepare to die unless you really don't want to.
I like that. But so I just looked it up, and the game I was thinking of was Last of Us Part 2. And so in addition to having like easy, well, very light, moderate, hard, and survivor challenge levels, they have custom.
They're adding a new one today as well, which is grounded difficulty. Don't know what that means. And also permadeath mode.
Oh, God. That's not for me. I die a lot.
I'm playing permadeath mode in real life. Don't want to play it in a video game.
Exactly. But the custom...
That was bleak.
Especially right now. The custom difficulty mode is what I thought was really interesting. So you can tweak everything from how aggressive your allies are or how frequently your allies kill enemies, all the way through how accurate your enemies are or how aggressive they are in advancing or flanking on you. So you get to kind of expand, and I think this acknowledges, to your point, Lewis, how arbitrary our normal difficulty settings are. So much goes into a single difficulty mode that this gives the player the power to tweak things. Maybe, you know, for one person, they could handle it on the hardest difficulty, except for something like their allies or, you know, the enemy combos or something. And so if you're able to toggle things,
if you turn their aggression all the way up, do they just get MAGA hats?
Oh boy. Well, okay, there's a lot of sassy things I could say about that.
I will say you can do a similar thing in Project Cars 2, because I play a lot of that. And you can scale the AI difficulty based on like how skilled you want them to be and also how aggressive. And it feels just like a nice thing to have in a racing game, but it is so useful in terms of actually being able to scale your difficulty beyond 4 ticks of like easy, medium, hard, and very hard. Because you've got like a whole level of like 0 to 120, and all of
that was also
however you want.
That was like a massive point of contention in like the hardcore racing game fan base. Is they were like, no, it needs to be simulation. It needs to be as simulation as possible. That's what we want.
Yeah,
it's like, but Project Cars 2 has that. It's just also got these other options.
Yeah, it's like
people get so pissy.
But
yeah, like for me, I love racing games, but when it comes to simulation races, it takes me like 6 hours to get into that because I'm way more into arcade races. Like Burnout 3 is the best racing game of all time. You can all suck my ass. So when it comes to a simulation racer like Forza or Gran Turismo, it takes me hours to just get back into that, like slow in, fast out. You got to learn how cars work.
Yeah.
And I know when I was playing Project Cars, I could turn that all the way down and just have like and put on all these nice racing assists and slowly like fuel myself into the mindset of how these games like work, how differently they work, and that is such like an important feature for bringing gamers of all like needs of accessibility into new genres that they wouldn't play otherwise, because it is so hard to get into new genres.
I mean, even it's not quite out yet, but from the philosophy that Project Cars 3 have stated, they want to make it looks like they're trying to make it more accessible to a wider audience, and they've done a lot in improving controller feel, because that's not perfect through simulation games, which is really good for someone who at the moment just plays on controller, because it's leveling the field between like the people who can afford to shell out however much money they want on a sim rig, and those who just have a controller wanting to play it casually. You get more of actually a level playing field between them, and it's not just elitism of who's got the best controller.
But I do have insider information, and this is fresh off the presses. You can't tell anyone about this. Easy mode on Project Cars 3 is going to be Fast and Furious Crossroads. That's what you get to play if you put it on the easy mode.
Is that easy mode or just torture?
It could be the permadeath mode, where you make it all the way through. We'll talk about that later because reviews have come in, Alex.
Oh, perfect. I need to...
But yeah. Is there anything else that you want to touch on for accessibility, Jesse?
So I think we kind of touched a little bit on Microsoft's accessibility controller and things like that, and I just think that we have such huge studios now with a lot of funding and money, and I would love to continue to see what developers can do to make their games more accessible. And I think instead of there's kind of a mindset to accessibility where a lot of folks who don't do a lot of accessibility work come into it and they try to think of every disability they could possibly imagine in their head and then try to give settings for each one of those. And it's kind of a self-defeating way of looking at it, because you're never going to be able to imagine in your mind all of the possible combinations of access needs that people might have. So, the games that we've talked about, like The Last of Us Part 2, giving players as much control over the settings as possible allows them to make a game that's more accessible for them. And it takes kind of the burden off the developer from trying to, conceive of every possible setting or combination of settings that a player needs, and instead empowers the player themselves to make those choices about what they need for their own access. And so I want to see more games doing that.
I've just thought of this is it's not really an accessibility option in the game, but this is a very unique way of making games accessible to like a certain audience of people, and that is Alex's last podcast, I believe. I don't know. These things blend into one another. We talked about the Xbox Games showcase, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So there was a game on there called Tell Me Why, and it was the Don't Nod, like Life is Strange developer game.
Yes.
And so this wasn't talked about in the show, but we talked about it kind of. This is a game it features a trans protagonist. And recently with games like Deadly Premonition 2, which features a lot of dead naming and very hurtful things towards the trans community, trans gamers, like the trans gaming community, have talked about how knowing how a trans character is handled in a video game makes it so much more accessible to them, so that they don't jump in and get like upset or offended at the content inside a game. And I thought that clarifying what will happen in your game revolving around trans characters within it helps that game become a lot more accessible to people who might be hurt by the wrong things that will be done in that game, like in Deadly Premonition 2. And the developers of Tell Me Why have actually spoiled their entire story before it comes out, so that they went into extreme detail on exactly how that character will be handled throughout the story, and if there are any upsetting things when they're in there, and exactly why they are in there, so that people who are from that community that are playing that game can go in knowing that they will not be immediately offended by the content within the game, especially since it touches on such a sensitive topic for a lot of people who want to just, like when people have a trans character in media, a lot of the times it's coming from being written from cis people who think that telling that story of identity is so important that they have to continue dead naming that character and telling people like, oh, but this person used to be this all the time, whereas people just want to identify as who they are. And I think that's a very important thing to clarify for people who are from these communities.
I completely agree, and I think that's kind of a lot of the impetus behind things like content warnings, which I know the internet is always so divisive about, but really I think for media like video games, and it's already part of our TV show and movie MPAA ratings, but I think allowing people to choose what content they engage with by just being upfront about what kinds of things are in your media is very reasonable. And so for me, for example, I've actually haven't myself played The Last of Us Part 2 because I know that there are a lot of scenes having to do with like killing dogs that are quite upsetting, and for some reason that is my Achilles heel. I can handle all kinds of stuff.
No one wants to see a pupper like that.
No, but for me it's like I actually, ever since getting my dog, before that I probably could have handled it, but now that I have a dog, that just deeply, deeply bothers me. And so I was like, man, I'm glad that people were upfront about that being in the game, so I can choose whether or not to play it. But especially, even more so when you, because having a dog is a choice. But when you come into issues of personal identity and who people are, then if you're going to have kind of bigotry in your game, whether you think for some reason that's integral to the story or whatever, you should at least be upfront so that the people who are harmed by that kind of mindset or language can choose whether or not they want to engage with your product.
It's actually like, it's such an easy thing because like with video games, it's an interactive medium. So what you can have is like, you could have a content warning screen and you could say, these are what it entails, and if there's something you don't agree with, you can it can have like a spoiler button, and you can click on that button, and it can tell you exactly what and why that is there, and then you can decide for yourself whether you think that is, whether you think that's something that you want to interact with. Not quite video games, but I remember watching the movie It in cinema, like the new one, and. There's it's set in the past, so there are characters that are incredibly homophobic, and they toss some homophobic slurs, and I watched it with a gay friend of mine, and he didn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit about most things, but when I watched it again with another group of friends, like a completely different group of friends, some of them were hurt by that word being there, and I think it's a very easy thing to just be. Like if it's on a website or on Twitter or in a trailer, just saying, yeah, this movie includes this word. If you don't want to hear this word for like these reasons, I'm warning you about it beforehand so that you don't have to go through that, go through the pain of hearing that word.
I think that's interesting, and it reminds me. There's this website, Does the Dog Die?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so while it's not just about dogs, I mean, I feel like I'm on brand just talking about dogs endlessly, but
people love dogs.
Dogs are good.
But the list.
Can we put a picture of Hubble in the website banner for this podcast?
Yes, please. I have many photos that you can choose from. I assure you, my entire phone is filled. But I like that site because it not only goes into things that are obviously traumatic, like sexual violence or, I don't know, gore or something that might upset people, but it goes into so many different kinds of things that I didn't even think about as possibly being upsetting. And a lot of times they even have timestamps on it. So that if you really want to watch something, but like that one scene where, there's either like a sexual assault or there's some kind of violent thing that you don't want to watch, it will list kind of like the timestamps so that you can kind of just skip right over that. And I think that's again kind of giving the power to the person who is consuming the media to engage with it in a way that kind of is safest and healthiest for them. And that's kind of the core of accessibility, right? Is you're giving the power back to the person that is engaging with whatever it is. So I think it's awesome, and more people need to use that.
Yeah, I think it's very good to have that for any sort of part of a film or piece of media, because you don't have to use it at all. Like I've used sites like that in the past for jump scares. When I watched The Invisible Man, I knew there were certain points in that, and I don't do well with jump scares. I just didn't want to interact with them, so I deliberately looked them up beforehand so I could prepare myself for that situation. And it's just like no one else is affected by having a website that tells you when they are. And the same with Does the Dog Die? It's like people who are, people who want to experience it fresh aren't going to be tainted unless they look it up, and they don't have to look it up. So anything like that, even if it's like in a game's menu where it says, we've got content warnings in the options menu, you can look at them and you can see in chapter 6 there's a horrific event that happens to the main character, you can just be better prepared for it, and anyone who doesn't want to see it doesn't have to go look at that menu. Like, it's up to player choice and player freedom.
Because Call of Duty used to have that, right? I don't think they still do, but Call of Duty used to have there's a mission that's real fucked up. You might not want to see it. Do you want to skip it?
Yeah.
Do you remember? Like no Russian, and there's other games that have done it. But I feel like the issue with that is that they didn't really. There wasn't an option to be like, well, what's in this?
Yeah. There was the option to skip no Russian.
Yeah. And it's like, this level may be upsetting for some viewers, and you're like, well, why?
Yeah.
That doesn't tell me anything.
Like, if you might have
like,
known
obviously
the
you're willing
surrounding it, but there's nothing. If you went in blind to it, you would have no idea that clicking yes, you might just expect it to be like, oh, the standard affair of war atrocities, and not gunning down an airport's worth of civilians in cold blood.
I mean,
which is kind of a bit different.
You're not a real gamer until you speedrun no Russian.
Oh, God.
But yeah, just being like, if you're going to click what's in this, obviously you're like, you don't mind the spoiler that much.
Yeah.
Right? So, I bet if this was a thing, like content warnings that are like interactive so you could see what's in them, I bet there would be some gamers going like, well, that misses the point of the shock value. And it's like, well, some people don't want to be shocked.
Yeah.
It's entirely up to different people, like how they consume media. Because we don't well, apart from us, people don't consume it for a job. They consume it for fun. So
I think it's kind of, I can rationalize with a developer who doesn't want to put it in, because if they want their game to have a shock factor, and if that's their specific vision, then like, should we compromise on that? But I think if we just put it in an options menu, like, take it outside of the core of the game but keep it where it's accessible to people, so you can have the shock factor to the 90% of the audience. But the 10% who don't, they should have a resource that says, this isn't what I'm going to enjoy. But I can certainly sympathise with people who don't want to, if they've got a very specific vision of like, oh, we want to horrify the player at this timestamp, how you do that effectively, really. Or how you do it while keeping accessibility in mind.
I feel like this is one thing that Naughty Dog did really well on the run-up to The Last of Us 2, where they were like, if you're upset with murder, well, every character has a name and a heart rate. So if you feel bad about killing people, you're going to feel real bad about killing them. I think there's also in that game, people said, like, when it came out, that you'll kill people. And then people will be like, oh, his family is going to be so sad. It's like to the point of parody, where it's like, you always think of, like, I don't know about you, but as I get older, sometimes I killed someone in a game and I'm like, I feel like a piece of shit. Like in Uncharted, when you're gunning down, there's a mission where you're killing a lot of innocent people at a museum. And I'm like, all of these people had a family. None of them did anything wrong. We're just trying to steal from a museum. Anyway, I've lost the point. I'm just thinking about how stupid it is.
Cracking up about murder. Okay,
It's the British way. Usually we're very silent about it.
Either we're full-on somber or having a reet giggle.
Yeah, it's either melancholic or fucking hilarious, mate. So, is that all we've got to say about accessibility in games, or is there anything else?
Yeah, I think that's a good kind of tie-up.
Yeah, laughing at the murders of innocent people.
It's hard to know where to go after that. Like, not sure how to follow that up.
All right, Alex, we've got a brand I have to talk about.
Okay.
And I have to talk about this.
Okay.
Remember when I was sent that massage gun?
Oh, yes, I remember this.
Yes, it was an email. They were like, do you want to review a massage gun? I was like, sure. Why not?
This is how we get stuff done.
Yep, I was like, we'll definitely talk about it on the podcast. It is the M3 Pro. I think it's by a company called Opove or Opove. It's Opove. And obviously, with my with my RSI / carpal tunnel, when my physiotherapist decides to tell me which one it is instead of just picking between the two at random intervals, random 6-month intervals, as doctors are wont to do. They told me that maybe it would be good for like massaging those muscles, although they did tell me to do the exercises as well. I've been doing the exercises for a year and a half. So massage guns, I was like, people who sit like in offices or like they game on their shit computer chairs for so long, muscle, like, I think, what's the word I'm looking for? Like muscle tightness, like the way that muscles actually can join together and how tight and knotted they get is a real issue for people in our occupation, where we're just sitting at desks all day, especially when at the end of your workday there is an event that you need to cover for an additional 5 hours. So I don't know if any of you have ever used a massage gun, but this was my first time using a massage gun, and I would liken the experience to sitting in a very hot bath and just giving in.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
It is amazing, but they don't tell you this. This thing, they didn't say this in the email. This thing comes with a bunch of different heads, right? Because different parts of your body need to be massaged in different ways. And I am not a masseuse, so I don't know if I'm doing this wrong. But there is one, and they tell you use this one on the neck. And what it is, it's like a square U shape with like balls on the end of each side. And so you turn on the massage gun to your precious setting of choice. They all feel good, no matter how hard it is or how soft it is. They all make you feel like you're being shoved in a tombola machine and just rolled around. And so you put it on the base of, or you put it like to the sides of your spine, and the muscles there, like your back muscles. I don't know if you're supposed to do it sitting up or standing up or lying down, but I've attempted to stretch my arms so that I can do it every single way. Some of it works a lot better than others. But what this thing does is it goes around your spine, right? And because my physiotherapist keeps telling me that my RSI could either be because of my shoulders, my neck, my back, or my wrists. I think it's the wrists because that's where it hurts. But so what it does is it goes up and down your spine and it tries to unknot. And this thing it moves around real fast in a circle, but it moves around so fast that it's kind of in the same place. Do you know what I mean? Do you get what I mean? Jesse, you do science. You know how movement works, right? When it's moving so fast, yes, it doesn't look like it's moving. Yeah, so what it does is it kind of spins, but also it kind of juts forwards and backwards real fast. And so if you put it on your muscles, it feels really, really good. But it's also hard plastic. So if you slide a little bit, so that it's touching your bone, it feels like it's being punched super fast in your spine.
Does it seem pretty sturdy? Because funny thing is that I have really bad muscle spasms and knots, and I have broken multiple massagers. Oof. Just because they'll get stuck on a knot or something and they just won't be able to move. And so I don't know if I just have weird rock muscles or something, but does it seem like it's pretty,
two-toned,
it can stand a beating?
This is a really weird one because I looked up some Amazon reviews to see if this was a thing that the M3 Pro did, but no, maybe I'm not using it right. Because the actual massage gun itself is fucking massive, right? It is so chonky and well built. But the things that you put into them they fall out all the time. So
it doesn't click in or anything?
You put them in. Yeah, it doesn't really have a click. So you push it in and you twist it a little bit so it's in place. And most of the time it will be fine. But there's no actual click. So you don't actually know it's in properly. So sometimes you'll be like massaging yourself, being like, I've been sitting at this fucking desk for 10 hours. My back hurts so much. So you'll use the massage gun so that you can do your review on your podcast. And you'll be massaging for like a minute, and I guess like maybe I've hit it at an angle or something, but like it's a fucking ball, so and then it'll just fly off and like across my room because it's so fast. So I mean, this is also the first massage gun I've used. Like, you've used massages of like attachments or anything? Have they ever gone?
I've never used a massage gun, so that just sounds like that wouldn't.
Oh.
Like, I'm imagining almost like a drill, kind of like you would have some.
It feels a bit like when I shoved a drill into my spine by accident.
But it feels like, there should be kind of some mechanism for tightening the hold on the inserted piece or clicking it into place or something.
Yeah. That's the worst part about this thing. Like, I've got no other massage guns to compare it to. Apparently they're a fad right now because everyone's at home sitting on a chair because they've got fucking nothing else to do. Yeah, I mean, especially me, right? Well, everyone's like, PC gamers especially, you need to either fix your posture or go to a chiropractor / masseuse. Because I've seen every PC gamer I've seen has been bent over or hobbled over their desk like a fucking prawn. But I looked through the instruction manual and I couldn't see anything about like how to properly put them in, so I feel like I was putting them in right. But like 9 times like 9 times out of 10, the first time that I use it like on a day, they'll fly out and then I have to like fix it. And also, you can't put them back in while the massage gun is going off. That is a very important step. Turn it off. So yeah, massage guns are pretty fucking cool. And this one's an alright one, I guess. Originally, there was another company that wanted us to review a massage gun and we were going to send it to Alex, but when I responded to them, they didn't reply.
Oh.
So
that sounds like, the struggle is real. Your life is so tough having to, review different kinds of massage tools.
You're going to be so massaged that...
We would have been so chill on this podcast. Maybe there wouldn't have been a single swear.
Oh, I doubt it.
Me too. Well, it's like when you're massaging, it feels so good that you gotta swear. You go, fuck, this is great. So, I mean, if you're really into a massage gun, like if you really want one, I guess I recommend it. But I mean, it's really weird. It's like you gotta spend at least 10 minutes like fiddling with it first, so you can't just have a quick massage most times. But I've never had a massage, so I don't know if people are like, yeah, I'll just have a quick one. Is it like a quick thing that you get, or is it like you're here for an hour now?
I pre-pandemic, of course. I got massages quite regularly just to help with like those muscle spasms and everything.
Oh, so when your massager broke, you mean their hands just split apart?
No, they seem to handle things just fine, but the poor, mechanical substitutes have not just helped. But I'm usually there for like an hour to an hour and a half. But
I think I'd get bored.
Oh no. It's very nice. It's just like I don't know, maybe this is just me since I tend to have like a lot of knots and spasms and things, but it's just kind of like all those little achy bits like that get in the way. People tell you to try meditating and stuff. Whenever I meditate, I just become acutely aware of all the different parts of myself that hurt. Yeah. And so it's like all somebody just going through and like, I don't know, just removing all of those things that hurt. And so it's, even if it takes a while, it's very, very nice.
Yeah, but I get this issue all the time where if I'm doing anything that like requires me to not do anything, I just become so aware that I get restless. Like, just, I don't know, like sitting in a park with someone, and it's like, they're like, okay, Lewis, I'm just going to admire the nature for a little bit. I just sit there and I'm like, what the fuck do I do now? Like, if someone's like, if someone's going to massage me for an hour and a half, I need something. I need to have like a TV show or something that I can focus on. Because otherwise I'm just going to be like, this is boring. Which I don't have to worry about with the massage gun, because I'm the one massage shooting myself in the back. But as for the RSI, I feel like it did actually help a little bit. When I use it, my arms do feel a little bit looser. So if you've got RSI, I would suggest getting a massage, but not from a person right now, considering how everything is. Anyways, home. Yeah. Stay home. Get your dog to massage you. Just let them walk on your back.
Oh, God.
My dog would do that all the fucking time. We had an old English sheepdog, and he would just step on you. Like, not like, you know how dogs, like, they step on you, like, playfully as they go to, like, curl up on you? Nah. He wouldn't curl up. He would just stomp on you and then run away. Anyway, should we get into news?
Well, that seems...
Sure.
That's a smart idea.
First, we will talk about Marvel's Avengers.
Okay.
The game.
And that is a game. What of it?
This is a game that you and I have both played.
We have. We did play it.
We didn't talk about this before, and I didn't write about it, but we got to see a very special, behind closed doors, test build thing of Miss Marvel gameplay.
You did. You sneaked me in.
I did.
Whether or not you should have done is up for debate. But I.
Well, you see, I walked up to them and I went, "This is Alex. He's with me," and they went, "Okay."
All right.
But we played that, and I remember coming out of it and going, "If they expand on this, it'll be real good."
Yeah.
Turns out, and this has been like a year and a half since we played it.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't expanded on it. It's the exact same. But there's been a lot of contention behind this game. Jesse, do you know much about this game?
I do not. I'm usually not. I have I seen? No, I didn't watch Miss Marvel, but my brothers and my parents are really big into kind of like the superhero movies, and I've never really gotten into them. So I know less about it, but I would love to hear about what this, dramatic controversy is.
So everyone knows about Spider-Man. He's the world's most popular superhero, I'd say. It's like him and Batman. I'd say he just, like, crosses out Batman in terms of popularity, because I think he's a lot more accessible to, like, younger audiences, and his morals are a bit clearer.
Yeah, Batman's a bit of a broody bitch.
God, especially, have you watched The Dark Knight Rises? I don't know how children sit through that, because one, it's fucking boring, and two, you can't understand a fucking word he says. But Spider-Man will be exclusive to PlayStation consoles in the Avengers game.
So like a hero you can play, and it's only for...
Yeah.
Oh. What?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is...
that seems kind of shitty.
Yeah, this is... so he's not going to be part of the main story, but he will have his own missions and stuff when he launches next year, because this is like a live service game. This was announced alongside the addition of Hawkeye for all consoles, in which the Avengers developer said that don't be sad, because Hawkeye will be available to play.
I mean, that's more of a reason to be sad, isn't it?
I know, like, if PlayStation players got Hawkeye exclusively, I think I'd actually laugh.
It would negatively hurt PlayStation 5 sales.
It would. Can you imagine, like, Avengers PS5 bundles, and it's, like, exclusively with Hawkeye? And I just think this is an extremely shitty move.
Yeah, I'm glad that it's not part of the main story. I think if he was actually pushed in, and it's just like, oh, you don't have this main story mission because you have a Xbox One X rather than a...
Oh, you mean like if the character was in cutscenes but you couldn't play his missions?
Yeah, that would be not good. But still, just having like separate missions and separate content is very not good, but seems very Sony. Like, I'm not at all surprised Sony have done this, because it seems that Xbox are the ones who are very championing playing together and like harmonizing, especially PC and Xbox at the moment with stuff like Game Pass.
And I believe this game does have crossplay, so Xbox players and PC players will see Sony players playing as Spider-Man. Which nobody's talked about yet, but that is especially shitty.
Yeah.
That like it will essentially be rubbing it in people's faces that you bought the wrong system if you like Spider-Man. And obviously, like the Spider-Man games, like the Sony first-party ones that they signed a deal with Marvel to make these, just like this exclusive Spider-Man series, with Spider-Man from Insomniac and the Miles Morales game that comes out this holiday. People think that Sony owns Spider-Man. Especially like with this, the people, I've seen a lot of comments going, well, no, because Sony owns Spider-Man, so only they would get Spider-Man. Whereas Sony does not own Spider-Man. They own the movie rights to Spider-Man, which does not give them game rights. I think it's a very dangerous like way to play. Like, people are obviously going to start assuming Spider-Man with Sony, and if you want Spider-Man, you've got to get a PlayStation.
Yeah, I mean, if they've got it seems that they've, because of the movie right relationship with Sony, it might just be going that way anyway. But
yeah, possibly in the future, because Disney are extraordinarily bad with handling their licenses with games.
Yeah. We can just hope that it doesn't go that way, because I think just exclusivity like that is never a good thing, especially with crossplay enabled. That is just the extra kick to everyone who's like, oh, I guess I can't play Spider-Man, but that's fine, I can still play everyone else. Oh, look, there's Spider-Man, my favourite.
Yeah, and personally, he is my favourite.
He's a good boy.
Especially with the popularity. And I mean, I'm trying to think, is there another game that has done anything like that? Because I know there are, of course, like console exclusives, but a cross-play game that had content that was exclusive to one console only. I'm trying to think if there are other examples of that.
I don't think cross-play games, because that's quite a recent thing.
Seems shitty though too, kind of obviously so.
Yeah, but cross-platform games. I remember Street Fighter Cross Tekken, or was it Tekken X Street Fighter? But they had like 5 characters that were exclusive on PlayStation, but they were on the files for the Xbox version. Yeah, which really pissed people off. So like there was I don't know if you've seen box art Mega Man, but it was like Mega Man designed off the really bad box art on the NES, and he was like overweight and like clumsy and stuff. He had actually aged the years between that game's release and the new game's release, which people love, because like this was during a time where Mega Man was about to come back, but then all of that fell through, so all anyone ever had during that period was the overweight, clumsy Mega Man. But they had like 5 characters that were exclusive. Like when it was like Mortal Kombat 9, they had Kratos exclusive. And that made sense, because if it wasn't for Sony, that character could never have been in the game, because they own it. And like Dead or Alive 4, which was an Xbox 360 exclusive, they had like they had a Spartan in there from Halo, and that was cool. And Soul Calibur, they've had console exclusive characters, not in the new one, but before that, like every game had like a console exclusive character. Like Nintendo had Link, Xbox had Spawn, and PlayStation had Heihachi from Tekken. And I thought that was a really cool way of doing it, like everyone getting a unique character. But this Avengers thing is like, they get Spider-Man. That's not all they get. So I'm going to read off all of the stuff that they also get on PlayStation, because the character wasn't bad enough, right? They also get 30-day exclusive access to legendary outfits, emotes, takedowns, and nameplates for every single hero in the game. Exclusive community challenges, which are additional missions that players can play through to get XP and rewards. And also, PlayStation Plus subscribers... PlayStation players will also get a free Miss Marvel bundle on release date. And also, every time a new hero is added to the game, they will get a rare outfit and nameplate and 100 credits for that character.
I think...
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah. The daily missions is a bit of a piss take, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I can understand maybe gating Spider-Man off if you want to be really scummy. But actually putting missions and gameplay, even if it's just like, oh, go here and kill 100 goons, it's still like, that's an incentive to play and a reason that Xbox players don't have. So that's so
Sony
bad.
have done this before. Sony have done this before with Destiny, but with Destiny it was a year exclusive, so they would get it after a year. This game's deal seems to be for 10 years.
What?
Yeah, so this game apparently has a 10-year plan. Unless it does badly, then they'll forget about that. But which is shaping up to not go as great as they want it to be.
Yeah.
But this is a live service game, so they're going to be adding content for years to come, and all of this content will be exclusive to that. Obviously, like new characters that aren't Spider-Man, multi-platform, but some missions and skins and stuff are going to be exclusive. And if you thought that was bad, news came out today that so as it sounds, this game is like piecemeal on different compared to like what platform you're getting, even though you're paying the same. But they have exclusive content for mobile networks and chewing gum brands.
So, like, if you're on EE, then you get a special mission?
Yeah. So if you're on Virgin Media or Verizon, you will get exclusive skins. Oh, Intel also have exclusive skins. And if you're on 5Gum, sorry, not on 5Gum. If you chew 5Gum, you will get exclusive emotes.
Oh.
What the fuck is this game?
I think this is the capitalist hell we've been saved from. I mean, I'm so unsurprised this is happening, to be honest. Like, I'm sure there have been games in the past that have done stuff like this, where it's like, if you buy a certain product, then you get a certain reward. But to have it in such a piecemeal game already is really taking the piss. Like, because they've obviously portioned it up to give to Sony and Microsoft, or more aptly just give to Sony, and then to also section off the next 10 years of content to different brands. It's just like, oh yeah, we're never going to give you the full game. It's just so dishonest.
I think it for a while, I feel like it was Doritos or something, where like you would get a code in a bag to get, maybe some like a skin or something. That bothers me. Or like
some XP.
Yeah.
Double XP stuff.
That bothers me less, because just going out and buying a bag of Doritos, while we could argue kind of creates an economic barrier at some point when you're purchasing, having to purchase more and more of certain products. But
I've bought 600 packs of Doritos. I just want the skins.
But something like, a mobile contract that you have with a certain provider, that's something that, for one, a lot of kids is out of their hands. And two, for a lot of people, is something that you're locked into. And so it's, instead of it, incentivizing people to go out and, eat Doritos or drink Red Bull or something, it's just basically like it's punitive. Gives you
skins.
But it's a punishment. It's kind of saying like, screw you, you bought the wrong console, or screw you, you have the wrong, mobile provider. And instead of it kind of motivating people to go buy certain products, which I also don't like personally, but that at least I can kind of understand and is less of a barrier than, a brand whole new console or change cell phone net providers. Like, what?
The Spider-Man thing is I'm thinking about kids who will like they don't get to pick the console that they want a lot of the times. Like a kid who has an Xbox and they get given like this copy of Marvel's Avengers. Imagine they're online, they see people playing as Spider-Man, they find out they can't play as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That's soul crushing to a kid.
Especially with how popular you said Spider-Man was. Like, it'd be one thing if it was just every console gets kind of like a B-list,
Yeah, if it was
superhero.
Hawkeye.
Yeah, right?
Fucking
Or...
No one's favorite superhero is Hawkeye.
But if it was that and every console got a different one, fine. But to take, like you said, one of the most popular, if not the most popular, especially for a younger demographic, and then restrict that to one console only just seems kind of dickish. Extra dickish.
Like, if this is... imagine if this is like... So, my favorite Peter Parker is like the teenager Peter Parker, which I feel like is the one that like a lot of children like relate to a lot, like the one from cartoons, not the sorry comic book nerds, I don't really like the 35-year-old Peter Parker all that much. I feel like the childlike whimsy of Spider-Man is why a lot of children relate to him, and if they pick like the younger Spider-Man to be this exclusive version, I think I'll cry.
I wouldn't because PS4 Spider-Man. But...
I don't think so. This is a new universe.
Oh, okay.
It's like a separate branch universe, so they might have a skin for him that's like the PS4 one. Like again, like if Spider-Man was cross-platform, they were like, here are exclusive skins that are from the Spider-Man PS4 game, or like emotes that are from the Spider-Man PS4 game. That is completely understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's even like that's cool. That's like you can't get those unless you partner with Sony. But you could put Spider-Man on everyone's game. You aren't, because you took a massive the higher ups at your publisher took a massive lump sum. I'm sure that the people who make this game do not want this to be a thing. I'm sure they just want to add Spider-Man to the game because they obviously like Marvel, and if they like Marvel, they love Spider-Man.
And I'm sure they don't really see, a massive jump in their take-home income from whatever this deal is that has been made. Like it's not trickling down to reach the people probably making this game. Because I will say that I find there to be this kind of maybe toxic pattern of just people trashing developers often for decisions that are made by like kind of the corporate level. Yeah. And there needs to be a distinction there. Is like, to your point, the developers probably don't want this, and they're not seeing the profits from it, most likely. Yeah. So
I mean, they might see, like, if the game fails, like, sales-wise, they might see the publisher be like, you have a year to get this on track. Compared to, like, if they didn't have this, like, lump sum going in, they probably wouldn't have seen that. But to continue gatekeeping talk...
oh boy.
Apple is widely known for gatekeeping, and they've done it again, boys. Well, they're gatekeeping Project xCloud from iOS. Oh. Yeah, so Project xCloud launches in September. This is Microsoft's mobile streaming thing. So if you have Game Pass Ultimate, so a Game Pass Ultimate subscription, you can stream Xbox One games and like Game Pass games to your phone, and you can use a control, like a Bluetooth controller, and I think they're adding in touch controls as well, which is cool. But you can only use it on Android because Apple are being Apple. So the way that this works is Apple have a very strict policy on what they allow into their store. They say, but we've seen a lot of shit on their stores in the past, in many years, worse than the Play Store in a lot of cases. The people who put it on, they just pay Apple a lot more than they pay Google. And what they do is, this has been an issue for Facebook Gaming, which we'll have a little aside about. Google Stadia is not playable on iOS, and Project xCloud will not be playable on iOS. And it's because the games on... Well, they say it's because of this. The games on these things, Apple is not vetting beforehand. So then, even though these games are all rated by an independent body, they're rated by Xbox for classification, and they're stuck to a very high like guidelines, and they're also rated by the ESRB and PEGI, and sometimes the BBFC if they're older games. But Apple wants to do that themselves. They believe that every title that becomes playable on Project xCloud should be submitted to individual approval before being playable on an iOS device. And that is stopping all of these streaming services from being able to just add games to their service. But also, and this is what Apple isn't saying, Apple loves money.
No, really?
And I remember when Steam wanted Steam Link to be on iOS, they had to remove the ability to buy Steam games through the app because Apple wanted 30% of each game sold through if they bought it on an iOS device, which is fucking disgusting. Like, I don't know if you know this, but if you have a Spotify subscription, if you pay for your Spotify subscription on your iOS device, you actually pay 5% more. So if any of you have an iOS device, maybe just buy it on the web. Thankfully, I do not pay for my Spotify subscription on my iPad. But what do you guys think about this? Because I think this is also another way of people gating accessibility, is that people cannot afford a console, but they like to pay a lump sum for a console, but they might be able to buy a controller and like a month subscription for their phone so that they can play like these titles that they really want to play and then stop that subscription.
I agree, and I think, I will admit a bias that I have, kind of a knee-jerk dislike for Apple, just because I think with every move they've made, especially from a hardware perspective, it is designed around selling more products, making more money, often at the detriment of the user. And especially
I would say the only device that they've made that has gone against that is their iPad Pro line, which I use. I think in recent years they are, for some reason, they're more affordable than some iPhones, which doesn't fucking make any sense because they're more powerful, have bigger batteries, better screens. It's insane. But every other product that Apple makes, I would agree, is overpriced.
Not only that, but removing, for instance, I have to use Mac computers for work, and every new model that comes out seems to have, I have to now buy, or my work in this case has to buy a whole bunch of different adapters because they've made the ports even more asinine than previously, and
they love making the adapters, but they don't like giving them to you.
No, and the adapters are often shit and have to be replaced frequently. Same with the chargers. But it just, it smacks of kind of like a very regressive mindset to me, because I really feel like the future of gaming is for things to be more open, more accessible, allowing people to engage in more ways and allowing them to play and engage with content through different modalities. And so my secret biased hope is that Apple's going to continue to wall itself off into hopefully oblivion, where it just becomes some hipster brand that maybe people with a shit ton of money and, I don't know, not enough brain cells to realize that there are better...
way too much hair.
Yeah, they can, that'll become that brand, but it won't... It's not a smart business decision in my mind, because with this strong push towards even just things like crossplay, but also allowing people to, I don't know, the whole idea of playing a game on your phone that I once played on my Xbox and connecting a controller with Bluetooth to my phone is awesome. It kind of almost embodies like the vibe of the Nintendo Switch, of just allowing you to game with all of that flexibility, taking it anywhere, also a console. But the more that you wall yourself off and you prevent these kinds of collaborations, I would say, I'm hoping that in the future we'll see Apple either have to make a change or just become some elitist brand that is kind of disconnected from sort of the reality of video gaming, which it's actually been for a while if you think about it. But
yeah, it's really weird because on the hardware side, this past year, Apple is changing a lot. Like on the hardware side, they're abandoning Intel to make their own chips, which will solve their biggest issue for like their Macs and stuff, which is the fact that they thermal throttle really easily because Intel chips cannot survive in the enclosed type of devices that Apple like to make. And by that I mean they make devices that don't have any fans, which doesn't fucking make any sense. And so they've been lowering prices on iPhones, and they want to lower prices on Macs. Apparently the new MacBook is going to be $800 compared to like $1,500. But then when it comes to like the people making their software, it's a completely different company. Yeah. And it is a good...
I mean, Apple has... The thing they love to say is they have the ecosystem. So, like, all of the Apple stuff works together in kind of, like, an amazing way. The stuff you can do if you've got every Apple product is ridiculous. But the only way they do that is by constructing these walls that don't let you use anything else. So it's like, you've got to have iPhones and you've got to have this store system that's incredibly limiting to anything that's not... been vetted by us already. So it's like when you're in that ecosystem, it's a great time for you because you're there and it's like everything's perfect around you. But yeah, we're like looking at it from an outside view, there's no entry point and it's just barriers up all the way around basically. Like they don't want stuff like xCloud on, as you say, because they can't vet it themselves. They can't say like, this is all Apple approved and it's all Apple made and Apple designed. It's like any uncertainty they add in, they just have to like stamp out with the biggest boot they can find.
But yeah, I think it's such an old-fashioned way. Like everyone's evolving. Like walls are getting broken down, like left, right, and center, and it's Apple that are being left in the dark. Like they made their own subscription service, Apple Arcade. It was great on launch. Like Sayonara Wild Hearts was there, one of my favorite games of all time already. Like as soon as I played it, and then immediately they're like, "Yeah, but you can't fucking play xCloud on us. Get the fuck out of here." It's just insane.
Yeah.
Well, They wanted all the money so bad. They made their own fucking credit card.
They don't want to share the money with
There's
like 30% of Microsoft even.
I think it's only in the US.
They want all the money.
But to be fair, I don't think a Brit would ever buy one.
Yeah. And it's all their money.
Like everyone's too busy with their club cards. Like no one has enough space in their wallet for a club card. Next story. I'll try and speed this up. You remember Craig, right, Alex? The brute from Halo Infinite that got bonked in the face? Do you know who Craig is, Jesse?
I do not, and I feel like ashamed to say that as my brother's a big Craig. Halo YouTuber, so now I'm like, oh god, don't
I
let
feel
him know
like
this.
your brother did talk about Craig in his newest video.
He probably did, and I'm going to have to text him after this and be like, oh shit, I didn't know who Craig was.
I've been asked a Halo question and I'm stumped.
Can I phone a friend? No.
So I'll post a picture of Craig in our Skype.
Oh,
chat
this
so
guy,
you can
yes,
see.
okay. And then
a
his
different
face
picture in
looks
there
like
earlier,
worse
but
in the new one or something. Was
so I
like
didn't
some of the
talk about it.
conversation I was seeing online. Is that it? Or...
So this is...
Well, yeah.
Well, the thing is that his face looks bad. But Halo Infinite's Craig is now the official Xbox mascot, according to Xbox boss Phil Spencer.
No.
Yeah.
Phil, no.
So I've said in our article on this, few things match his beauty, and just so you know, I have capitalized every use of the word his or he. His bald head, flared nostrils, those orange sun-glazed eyes, perfection incarnate, and alien Adonis. So he is now the official Xbox mascot, and people have obviously like slated 343 and Xbox for the poor visuals of Halo Infinite, which we won't discount because some of it looked fucking rough. But the 343 and Xbox seem to have been Peter, to some people's annoyance, they have taken in this criticism so well that they're like, we love Craig. He's the best. Phil Spencer said he's our new official Xbox mascot, and he replied with like an emoticon of a smiley face. So I said that he had a outdated emoticon instead of a more modern emoji. And he said, love the community and their ability to take something fun and just run with it. And I feel like if we don't see Craig on every piece of Xbox merchandising, we need to jail Phil Spencer. He needs to be taken out if he fails to stick to his word. So I'm thinking Craig hats, Craig masks, maybe with voice changer activation, a Craig Xbox Series X.
You know the Xbox One X has the engraving of Master Chief on a scorpion, I think, on the circuit board. They should have Craig on the circuit board.
Oh, I feel like it's too late for that.
They need to recall every product and just engrave Craig on there.
Oh, fuck. One thing that we didn't talk about. The Xbox Series X controller has leaked. Like, people have got it on their hands because people looted a GameStop in, like, Florida or something.
Oh, good old America.
Good old America.
Here to serve.
Hopefully they're looting for the right reason, because, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on in America right now.
Oh, God. Yep.
But the Xbox Series X controller is now in people's hands, and do you know what it says on it, Alex?
Does it say, we all love Craig, praise be to him?
No. It says Xbox Series X and S.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so Lockhart is now definitely a thing, even though we've been saying this for a long time, and we've gotten shit for this. I got shit being on somebody else's podcast going, well, yeah, we know it's a thing.
Yeah.
Because we've been told numerous times. But, you know, people are never happy. So that's a thing. We could say that, yeah, there's going to be a cheaper next-gen console. Again, Microsoft's been all in on getting everyone into the next generation of gaming, whether that's through streaming, a cheaper box that won't look as pretty, or the big enthusiast box. And I think that's a really important thing to do as games get more expensive. And I guess lastly we'll talk about this, is that, you know, that big green fucking sticker that they put on every Xbox Series X game?
Yeah.
They took it off after we complained too much.
What?
So they put this big green sticker that says optimized for Series X on the box art of everything, and it was so big that it ruined the box art. It made, like, it got right in the way of, like, the beautiful art that people have spent days putting together so that they can sell their game. They just shoved this massive obelisk of disgust on there. And I mean, we've written like 3 articles. I don't say we, me. I've written like 3 articles about this, about how ugly it is. And then I finally got to write the headline: Microsoft have removed the minging optimized for Series X badge from game boxes, and I'm so happy. It's the best news I've ever heard. It's no longer there. We can have good box art again. Oh yeah, and Halo Infinite is free to play for multiplayer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's all of the news pretty much.
I think so. It's been, well, there was the PlayStation event.
Oh yeah, well, you see, I was going to talk about it, but then they decided that they would spend 10 minutes talking about Godfall.
Yeah, that turned off any interest I had in that game, as somehow it looked less interesting the more I saw.
Yeah, the more I saw it, the more I stopped caring. And I didn't care. We talked about this game ages ago, and I didn't care when they announced it.
No, it looks quite dull.
Yeah, and the more they showed it, the more I wanted the conference to end.
It went on for so long.
The worst part is, I remember being excited about games that were on that show, that were on that stream, And because Godfall was there, I can't remember any of them.
There was the new Crash Bandicoot game, Crash 4.
That looked cool.
It does look cool. It does look very fun. I also forgot anything past that point because Godfall got into my brain.
Braid was there.
Oh yeah, but it's just normal Braid.
Oh,
there's nothing...
Spelunky 2 was there.
Oh yeah.
That's it. That's all I got. All right, so I guess we'll wrap up. We've talked about accessibility. We talked about my weird massage gun. It was pretty good. If I had to give it a rating, give it an 8 out of 10.
Oh.
All right.
As far as massage guns go, it massaged me. It felt good. And occasionally it did hurt. Which people tell me is all part of the experience. And we talked about news.
We did.
Boom. Jess, is there anything else you want to talk about? Or should we... I'm sure you talk about other things. Just not right now.
No, I think I'm good.
Do you want to tell people where they can find you and why they should follow you?
Oh, boy. You should follow me on Twitter at Enceladasaurus. So that's ENCELADOSAURUS. So the moon of Enceladus made into a dinosaur. You can follow me on Twitter there if you want to follow me for dog pictures and sassiness and also lots of things about planet stuff, space. So I research supermassive black holes. So you can follow me for that, and also the future of artificial intelligence in gaming. And so those are my big topics right now. So you can find me on Twitter.
Just saying, I've got a supermassive black hole in one of my cabinets. Do you know what I should do about that?
Say you would be dead. As I think everyone else on the planet would be as well. So, sorry.
All right, Alex, where should they find you and why should they follow you? You'll have to be real good with your pitch. Especially following the astrophysicist.
Oh, God, I felt like my pitch was kind of... It's really more dog pictures, I swear.
I swear I saw a planet thing on there at least once.
There is lots of space and also lots of dogs.
So I'm on Twitter at ControlALX, CTRLALX, as is my brand. I post shit very infrequently, so follow me if you want any tweet to be an occasion, because they do not happen often.
It's a celebration.
Look.
I do not ring the bell on your Twitter profile, yet I get notifications when you tweet, as if Twitter thinks I want to do a song and a dance that you're still alive.
I mean, Twitter knows how rare they are, so it's always a celebration.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Lewis_D_White, because then you'll know how upset I am with myself and everything around me. And you can find us on MSPoweruser.com/gaming. Only the gaming, because the tech guys can fuck off. And also you can follow us on Twitter at MSPoweruser or at MSPU Gaming. We have a Spotify and an Anchor and a YouTube channel. And pretty much you can rate this podcast and tell us how much you hate us in the comments.
Oh boy.
Bye everyone.
Bye.